Welcome back yet again, guys. My name is TayVikes28, and we are back on the grind with another episode of the Doug Flutie Career Mode series. This will be episode number 4, and we are headed to the future in this episode, as we're going to hit free agency very soon. But before we can do that, we have an upgrade here for Doug Flutie, and I'm putting into the Scrambler archetype because I want my overall to get better if we're going to head to free agency, so more teams will want me. And so that is my plan here, and also, we're going to have week 17 here shortly, but I wanted to explain a couple things before we head into this. There will be very little, if any, gameplay in this episode just because I am focused on the off-season. This is our off-season episode. It's going to be less about gameplay and more about the future. Alright, and what could be Doug Flutie's very last game as a Buffalo Bill. He goes out on top, beating the Miami Dolphins 21-19. However, this does only bring them to a 7-9 record, meaning they missed the playoffs yet again. Alright guys, I'm going to do something a little bit different here, as I will show you the annual awards for this year. I haven't done that before because really it hasn't applied to us because we've never seen the field. However, I decided since we're doing an off-season video, you gotta show everything. So here's the off-season awards. As you may have seen there, Matt Ryan won the NFL MVP, which is very exciting for him because he definitely deserved it after the season he had. And Deshaun Watson, however, does get the AFC Best Quarterback, and the Texans really have dominated in the awards section for the AFC, as they also get the best wide receiver with Demaryius Thomas, of all people, not DeAndre Hopkins. And they also get the best defensive back there with Kayvon Webster. And did you see that? I don't know if you missed it or not, but the best kicker in the AFC was Justin Tucker because, come on, people, kickers are people too. Come on, give them the respect they deserve. His best quarterback, not surprising, in the NFC is Matt Ryan, as he did win MVP, and Julio Jones, best receiver, which makes sense because his quarterback was the best quarterback. And really, in the NFC, it kind of got spread around. There wasn't really a dominating team, as Matt Bryant, the ageless wonder, it seemed like, because he is 900 years old, I swear to God. He got best kicker for the NFC. I'm also going to be showing you guys the Pro Bowl rosters this year for both the AFC and NFC, as we're going to show you everything on the offseason, like I said. But there are a couple of surprising things on these rosters, like the people who won the awards earlier that I showed you. Some of them didn't even make the Pro Bowl, which makes no sense at all. But you know what? It is what it is. Madden's not perfect, as we all probably know, so we'll just have to live with it and just move on. As another surprising thing are some pretty low overalls that made the Pro Bowl, which is actually good. That'll help those guys get developed, and if they actually deserved it, that's good for the Madden for recognizing that. So that's also another good thing, as there were some low overalls in the offensive line, but also the cornerbacks. I don't know if you saw, but the NFC cornerbacks are all about 80 overall or worse, which is kind of crazy. And in the kickers, the best kickers from the offseason, they didn't even win the awards for the Pro Bowl. I also wanted to show you guys the career leaders in both current NFL quarterbacks as well as the just career leaders in records for passing, just passing the other ones, because passing is the only one that we care about as we are a quarterback. As you'll go to the NFL right here, and the passing leader for career yards is Drew Brees, and way above anyone else. He's 20,000 yards above the second quarterback, which is Phillip Rivers, which is kind of crazy to think about. But if you think, Drew Brees has been at the top of his game forever, so it's not surprising. He also leads in touchdowns by a large deficit, which is really impressive for him. And if you go to the NFL records here, as we're going to do, we're going to go to career pass yards. Drew Brees leads the entire NFL ever in pass yards by over 10,000, which is crazy to think about. He absolutely shattered the record. And also for passing touchdowns, he has an entire probably season at least over Peyton Manning, who broke the record previously. So that is amazing for him and awesome, as he's probably going to retire this season. Alright guys, take a good long hard look at Doug Flutie in his Bills uniform, because it very well may be the last time you see him in that uniform. As I'm honestly going to say, I'm excited to move on, because this has not been what I expected it to be for the Buffalo Bills and Doug Flutie. So I think it's going to be a good departure on both sides. All right, after seeing Doug Flutie in his free agent uniform, I want to run down all 32 rosters at the quarterback position for you guys, just to get a little bit of an insight as to what teams we may be looking at in free agency and figuring out what teams we even have a chance to start for going into the offseason here. As we're going to start off... we're going to start off with the Chicago Bears here with Mitchell Trubisky. Obviously, they aren't going to move on from him and go with a lower overall quarterback. Andy Dalton, now that's an interesting one because he is a little bit older. He's not that great of an overall, so the Bengals are an option for us looking forward. However, that'll be another year on the bench most likely. And the Bills, obviously, we aren't going back to the Bills. There's no question about that. So that's out of the question. And the Broncos here, now the Broncos are definitely in contention for us because we would obviously start right away with them. The issue is they are likely to draft a rookie, which is not very good for us. And the Browns have Baker Mayfield, obviously, and the Bucks as well are not in contention. However, the Cardinals here, they have Teddy Bridgewater, so we could go in there and try and battle for the job, but I'd rather have one that we know we can get. The Chargers are interesting here because the Chargers don't have a starting quarterback, so they're going to probably draft a quarterback or sign one in free agency. Patrick Mahomes and Andrew Luck, obviously, those are guys are out of the question. Dak, I don't want to be on the Cowboys, let's be honest here. And the Dolphins and Eagles both have starting quarterbacks for the future, and Matt Ryan is a quarterback there, so don't have to worry about the Falcons. The 49ers also have a quarterback. The Giants, however, the Giants are interesting because Eli Manning just retired in the past 2 years, and so that leaves them wide open. And Sam Darnold is also an interesting one, who he actually made the Pro Bowl this season, but that's kind of an iffy situation. We'd have to battle for that one as well. As we're going to jump forward to the Raiders there, as you saw, Derek Carr was an interesting one as well, but it's another season on the bench. And the Saints here as well are quite interesting as they don't have a quarterback other than Nick Mullins, and we're a better overall, so that'll be interesting. We could jump in there. And going down, as you see Jameis Winston starting for the Steelers, which is kind of funny. But we jump through here and all the way down through the Vikings, and there's really no other options for us. All right, it's time to jump into free agency and see what type of offers that Doug Flutie can get from these teams. As I mentioned, the teams that I'm looking at previously. However, if a team comes out with a really good offer, we are not going to just ignore that, okay? Now, jumping in here, the Jaguars are right at the top of the list as they have a 77 overall quarterback currently on their roster, so they're definitely in contention. The Bills, however, are not because we just left them, obviously. The 49ers are not as they have Jimmy Garoppolo, and that's not someone we're interested in dealing with. And the Panthers also have Cam Newton, and the Raiders, however, the Raiders are interesting, and so are the Jets because they both have low overall quarterbacks, but the Raiders, they have really good money on this offer from the Raiders, so that is interesting. But I'm not sure if we want to sit behind Derek Carr for a year. And the Steelers, we aren't interested in doing that. The Saints, however, that is interesting, but the money is just not there, as the Lions apparently stole the Saints coach, which is ironic, but they're offering us a deal, which we aren't interested in, as they have Matt Stafford. The Ravens have a quarterback as well, so we aren't interested in that. However, the Bengals with Andy Dalton will sit on the bench a year there. The Cardinals, Teddy Bridgewater's a battle. And so are the Cowboys and Redskins, but the Broncos, are interesting as they don't have a quarterback. The decision has been made as Doug Flutie is going to be a New Orleans Saint for the next 3 years at least, as he decided that this would be the best offer for both money and the place to start, because the team itself is very talented, and even though we take a little bit of a pay cut here, but we get to start right away, so that's what's important. As there's also probably no chance that they're going to draft a quarterback, we're thinking, because they already have 4, so that was my thought process there. And we're going to look at the other all 32 teams at the quarterbacks, but I just wanted to look at a couple of teams in general, especially the Chargers, because I expected to get an offer from them, and also the New York Giants. And the Chargers here, as you'll see, they decided to go with Blake Bortles over the wonderful arm of Doug Flutie, which is funny because Blake Bortles is, well, he's trash. So good luck to the Chargers in the future, but all I'm going to say is you made the wrong decision. And the New York Giants, I expected to get an offer from. As you'll see here, though, they decided to go with Phillip Rivers, so that makes sense there, which is ironic because way back in the day he didn't want to play for them. But it is what it is as we move forward here as a New Orleans Saint, but I think it works out because we have to replace the best quarterback of all time in Drew Brees, so this is going to be very interesting. How will we live up to that sort of an echelon of quarterback moving forward? Alright, I also wanted to show you guys the first round of the NFL draft to see whether or not the New Orleans Saints decide to take a quarterback. And also I wanted to show you the entire draft recap just to see whether they took a quarterback at all throughout the entire draft. And in the first round, they decided to instead take a wide receiver to help Doug Flutie instead of taking someone to replace him, which is extremely exciting. And now also looking at the draft recap, you will see that they do not draft a quarterback at all in this draft, which means that Doug Flutie has the reins for the next 3 years. Alright, since Doug Flutie is on a brand new roster, we should show you this roster and just highlight both the positives and negatives and where this roster is better than the Buffalo Bills. Starting off, the first thing that is better than the Buffalo Bills is the running back position, as they have a pass catcher and a runner in the backfield in Alvin Kamara, as well as their receivers are way above and beyond better than what the Buffalo Bills had, as these receivers start off with one of the best in the game in Michael Thomas and a brand new rookie, as well as Traquan Smith, who's going to be a great third receiver to have. The tight end is a little lacking with Jeff Heuerman, except the offensive line is really good, I'd say. The tackles are elite. The inside needs a little bit of work, but I'm sure we can work on that over the next few years. And also, if you look at the defensive line is definitely something to be excited about because they have Cameron Jordan anchoring that left side, as well as some really good defensive tackles here, so that's a force to be reckoned with. However, the linebacking core is a little bit lackluster, as I'd say they're about an average linebacking core, nothing extremely exciting there. The corners are a little bit worrisome in my opinion, as you have Marshawn Lattimore, really good, but other than him, it's kind of lacking. It drops down to a 70-something overall. And the safeties, however, I'd say are above average, which is extremely nice, kind of trying to make up for that lack in cornerback depth. And obviously we don't have a kicker. I don't know why, but I'm sure we'll get one. Alright, we will see you next week for the start of the preseason. Leave a like and subscribe, and I hope you guys have a wonderful rest of your day.